Now, where a variable is defined is important because it indicates the scope of the variable, which means where it's visible. So if we created a new function and took some of these variables that we've defined and placed them in this function, we're going to highlight that these variables are local scope. In other words, they're only going to be recognized in the function where they're defined, so they could be used within this function. So we'll go ahead and comment here, clean this up a little bit, and comment here that those are local variables. Now, another scope of a variable will be a variable that's recognized in all of the functions in the module. So if we remove that record definition, that collection of variables, and we define it at the top of the module, so again, outside of any other function, at the top of the module, we have created modular variables. In other words, they are going to be available for use, visible, recognized in any function, used by any function in this module. Now, a third scope is global. And a global scope means that you've defined a separate file that has a listing of variables in it. So let's just go ahead and call this file globals4gl. We'll add a couple of our variables here. And we'll put the definition of those variables in a globals and end globals statements. So we're indicating here that we're defining these variables to be visible or usable by any function in any module that's compiled as part of this program. Now we're going to, as a second part of this, we're going to have to indicate to the other file which globals file to use. Now, in the original 4GL, here we'll have to add a global statement that identifies or points to that 4GL file that we have put our global scope variables into. So we've now seen where a variable is defined indicates its scope. Let's look at each of these in a little bit more detail. Global scope indicates that the variable is visible to all functions in all modules of the program. Memory is allocated at runtime and persists for the duration of the program. So the variable lifetime is the duration of the program. Too many globals can make your code hard to read and difficult to maintain. Modular scope variables, again, are visible to all functions in the module. Memory for a modular scope variable is allocated at the time that the program loads the module, and it does persist for the duration of the program. Modular variables can be helpful in enforcing encapsulation because they're hidden to other modules, so they're isolated to the individual module, and they do persist through the program duration. Local scope variables, again, are defined locally within the function, and memory is allocated dynamically, meaning that when the function is entered during program execution, and it persists for the function lifetime. Every time the block is entered during program execution, a new copy of the variable is created.